Shalom Aleichem, Mishpachim. I am coming to you with another Torah reading. We are still in Vayishlach and reading from Onkelos on the Torah. And this is the fourth Aliyah, the fourth reading, chapter 33, verse 6 through verse 20. And we are still in the book of Genesis. Let us begin. Let us begin. So we are starting here, verse 6, chapter 33. Torah up here, Onkelos down here. All right, let us begin. The concubines approached, they and their children, and they bowed down. Verse 6, Onkelos, they bow down. Various speculations are made why the Bible uses the feminine form of bow down, even though the verb supposedly includes the concubines as well as their sons. Bechor, Schor, cites an inventive view. Jacob's other children bowed to Esau when they saw their mothers bow, but the concubines' children did not do so. Only their mothers bowed, hence the feminine. Bechor, Schor, explains that the concubines' children approached Esau before their siblings. They saw nothing unusual in their mothers bowing because their mothers were always servile because of their lower position in the family, and they thought that they were not expected to bow since they were Jacob's children. Verse 7, Torah. Leah, too, and her children approached, and they bowed down. Afterwards, Joseph and Rachel approached, and they bowed down. Verse 7, Onkelos. Joseph and Rachel approached. Relying on Genesis Rabbah, Rashi notes that although Jacob's other children followed their mothers, Joseph walked ahead of his mother Rachel. He explains that Joseph saw that his mother was beautiful and was protecting her from Esau, and as a result of this good deed, he merited the blessing of chapter 49. Contrast this story with the story of Dinah and its results in the commentary on chapter 32, verse 23. Verse 8, Torah. He said, "What is the relation of this whole camp to you that I met?" He replied, "To find mercy in the eyes of my Lord." Verse 9, Torah. Esau said, "I have plenty, my brother. Prosper with what is your own." Verse 9, Onkelos. Esau said, Genesis Rabbah, Rashi, and Radak read into Esau's statement a concession of a birthright. Prosper. The Aramaic recasts the Hebrew, "Let what you have remain with you as a blessing." Esau is stating that what Jacob has should increase even further. Verse 10, Torah. Jacob said, "Please, if I found favor now in your eyes, take my gift from my hand, inasmuch as I have beheld your face as the sight of the face of the great ones, and you have received me favorably." Verse 10, Onkelos, please, now. The Hebrew na, meaning now or please, could be translated as please or now. Our Targumist generally opts for the latter, as does so for the second na in the verse. The first is rendered please in the Aramaic, as the Targumist generally prefers to avoid repetitions, and because of the context. Jacob is making a request, and please is appropriate. Gift. Scriptures uses minchati and birchati, literally my gift and my blessing, in verses 10 and 11 respectively. Onkelos renders them both tikrovti, my gift, because of the context. Both nouns are metaphorical synonyms for Jacob's gift. I have seen your face is like seeing the great ones. Scriptures seeing the face of Elohim could refer to God or be a rhetorical hyperbole for great ones, as in chapter 6, verse 2, or be a reference to Jacob's encounter with a stranger in chapter 32, verse 31 in Genesis. The former would make Jacob's statement unacceptably anthropomorphic. The Targum takes the second approach. The Saadia Gaon is similar with honored ones. Ibn Ezra adopts the third interpretation. Verse 11. Verse 11, Torah. Take now my gift which has been brought to you. For the Lord has had mercy on me, and I have everything. Thus he urged him, and he accepted. Verse 12, Torah. He said, let us travel and go, and I will go with you. Verse 13, Torah. He said to him, my Lord knows that the children are frail, that the flocks and herds that are giving suck are a care to me. If they are driven hard a single day, all the flocks will die. Verse 13, Unkelos. Children are frail. Even Ezra estimates that Jacob's oldest child was a little more than 12 years old. According to Chazkuni, children must relate to the sheep, since Jacob's wives and children rode on camels, and their speed was not restricted. That are giving suck and a care to me. The Aramaic clarifies the cryptic Hebrew, flocks and herds sucking on me. It treats sucking as if it had a letter hey in front, and consequently means that are giving suck. If they are driven hard, Onkelos treats the vowel prefix of u defakum as if, which is one of its meanings. Verse 14, Torah. Let my Lord now go on ahead of his servant. I will travel slowly according to the needs of what I acquired, which is before me, and the needs of the children, until I come to my Lord to Seir. Verse 14, Onkelos. Travel slowly. Ibn Ezra and Radak relate that the Hebrew root Nahal denotes a trip from one oasis to another. Verse 15, Torah. Esau said, let me now leave with you some of the men who are with me. But he said, why do this? Let me just find mercy in the eyes of my Lord. Verse 15, Onkelos. Why do this? Jacob did not want Esau's troops to accompany him. The sages in Genesis Rabbah saw that this lesson was applied in Roman times, when the Judeans never allowed Romans to accompany them. For the Romans performed this act of apparent generosity for their own benefit, and frequently confiscated the people's property during the trip. And that was from Nachmanides. And that was verse 15. Verse 16, Torah. So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. Verse 17, Jacob journeyed to Sukkot. He built a house for himself and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the place was called Sukkot. Verse 18, Torah. Jacob arrived intact to the city of Shechem, which is the land of Canaan, in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padan Aram, and he encamped before the city. Verse 18, Onkelos. Arrived intact. The Hebrew shalom is translated in several ways by different commentators. Onkelos uses intact, the word intact, as the translation. Rashi, based on the Targum, the Babylonian Talmud, in Shabbat 33b, and Genesis Rabbah, explains that Jacob returned with his body unimpaired, for he was healed of the lameness incurred during his wrestling with the stranger. His wealth was whole, and he was perfect in his knowledge of Torah. However, Ibn Ezra renders it as peace. He states that Jacob returned in peace without having any other incident impair him. But the word ironically suggests that peace will soon end with the ordeal of Dinah's abduction in chapter 34. Rashbam, Bechor, Schor, and Chazkuni regard the term as the name of a city, which was later renamed Shechem. See chapter 49, verse 10 in Genesis, where the word Shiloh is similarly given many meanings. Verse 19, Torah. He purchased the possession of the field where he had pitched his tent from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 lambs. Verse 19, Onkelos, lambs, for 100 lambs. Scripture's Kesita is only mentioned 3 times in Scripture. Here in Yehoshua chapter 24, verse 32, and in Eov chapter 42, verse 11. Its meaning is obscure. Onkelos renders it churfan, as do the Eov and Yehoshua Targumists. Rashi, based on the Babylonian Talmud in Rosh Hashanah 26a, translates the Aramaic word as a coin, but Radak understands the Targum as lambs. It may denote a currently unknown weight, or the lamb was used as a means of commercial exchange. Genesis Rabbah states that kasita means three things: valuable stones, sheep, and selahs, the name of a coin, which this threefold interpretation was probably derived by treating the Hebrew word as an acronym. Verse 20, verse 20, Torah. He set up an altar there and worshipped on it before God, the God of Israel. All right. Verse 20. Onkelos. He set up. From the use of the biblical word vayatsev, he set up, rather than vayiven, he built. Radak supposes that Jacob set up a single stone upon which he offered sacrifices and did not build an altar from many stones, worshipped on it before God. Our Targumist recasts the Bibles, and he called it because he generally dislikes endowing a place with God's name. He probably considered such a thing degrading, or that it would lead his readers to believe that God would be isolated to a single area. Ibn Ezra, Ibn Kaspi, and others note that there are more than several instances in Scripture where an altar is given God's name. Rashi suggests that the altar was not called by the divine name. It was named with words that reminded the hearer of God's deeds. This is an instance where Targum does not substitute the Tetragrammaton for El, because El is the singular form for God, and there is no fear that the readers of the Targum would read it and imagine a pluralistic deity. Onkelos highlights chapter 33. The Bible frequently portrays God anthropomorphically, picturing God as if he had a body or exhibited human emotions. Because, as Rabbi Ishmael teaches, the Bible speaks in human terms to help people understand it. Our Targumist removed 88 such descriptions just in Genesis, as in chapter 33, verse 10. And that is the fourth reading of Vayishlach with Onkelos. And I will read from the daily wisdom of the Lubavitch Rebbe on the Parshiot, which is separated by Aliyah, each individual reading. Is this Vayishlach? Fourth reading. All right. Perfect. What I just read was Genesis chapter 33, verse 6 through verse 20. And his brother Esau approached. Jacob presented his family to him. Esau was overcome by Jacob's display of brotherly sentiments, embracing and kissing him. After parting with Esau, Jacob camped for a year and a half at a place he would later name Sukkot, which means huts or booths, after the huts that he built there. The title of this daily wisdom on the Parshiot is called Furnishing Our True Home. Jacob built himself a house and made huts for his livestock. Allegorically, this means that Jacob made a home for his true inner self, his divine soul and its spiritual needs, but only temporary huts for his possessions and physical needs, his livestock. In other words, he made sure that his divine soul felt at home in his daily life, but kept his material concerns outside of his focus, lest they feel too much at home and start to take over his life. Similarly, a visitor once asked Rabbi Dovber, the Maggid of Mezrich, why his home was so poorly furnished. Rabbi Dovber answered by asking his visitor, well, why don't I see any of your furniture with you? Because I am now in transit, replied the visitor, but my home is properly furnished. Rabbi Dovber then told his visitor, I, too, am just in transit through this world, and like you, I do take care to furnish my real home, the next world, properly. All right. And that is the wisdom reading on the Parshiot, Vayishlach, the fourth Aliyah. Have a wonderful, wonderful morning or afternoon and evening. Have a wonderful day. All right. Bye.